What is the most humiliating/awkward situation that you have ever witnessed in a classroom? 10th grade Chem, girl with Tourette's in our class, first day. Her tics were exceptionally odd, mostly high-pitched chirps, sometimes weird cartoon-sounding noises. It's pretty hard to describe. And I was sitting in a row with her. On the first day, most of the class knew of her, and thus didn't really react, but one of my friends 2 rows up just kept looking and saying, "What is that?" And I guess no one had the heart to answer directly because the girl was sitting right there. Her squeals kept getting worse and worse because she was getting stressed out. It finally escalated to him semi-yelling to me, "Yo, what the frick is that crap?" Granted, these sounds were very, very weird, and almost sounded like a rusty pipe squeaking or something. Little did he know, our teacher was standing in the doorway. The girl finally ran out, squealing her butt off while the teacher ran after her. The whole class just sat there in stunned silence. Someone meagerly told my friend, "That girl has Tourette's." Pretty darn awkward, especially for the first day. One time, in science class in middle school, we were doing our end-of-semester presentations. Everyone was presenting their science experiments that we had all spent weeks on, and counted for a significant portion of our grade. One girl, who admittedly was not the sharpest crayon in the box, and kind of a ditz, got up to present. She was very excited about her breakthrough results. She went on about her hypothesis for several minutes that light affected vitamin C levels in different kinds of juices. She launched into detail about her experiment, which involved her testing different types of juices' vitamin C levels over a week or so period by putting them in the fridge in both clear containers and opaque containers. That way, she explained excitedly, she could test which ones had more light from the fridge affecting their levels. You know where this is going. When she finally asked for questions, the silence was deafening. Someone finally asked, "You know the light goes out when you shut the door, right?" It was my favorite science class. Not sure if this counts because it was me. In high school, I was at the board trying to do a geometry problem. I was bad at math, especially geometry, and the teacher, and the rest of the class, knew this. I was struggling when the rest of the students had returned to their seats. I continued to struggle as the teacher went through the other problems. Coming to me, he tried to talk me through it. He was being very kind and patient, but I was not getting it. Finally, I burst into tears and left the room. Later that day, I was called to the dean's office, where the teacher was waiting. He actually apologized and said he wouldn't send me to the board anymore. He tutored me for the rest of the year so I would pass. Senior year in high school health class. We get a police officer come and talk about random police stuff when he goes off about a kid from the local middle school that brought a gun to school. Big news locally at the time. But then he discloses that after investigations, they found out that he was frequently abused by his parents, which no one was aware of. Little does he know that the older brother is sitting right in front of him. The whole class sat awkwardly. In 5th grade, during a test, one of the girls in class asked to go to the bathroom. You could tell she had to go really bad. She had her legs in that about to let loose knot, and her hand was over her crotch. The whole 9 yards. The teacher refused because we were taking a test. She pleaded. She begged. You could see her eyes straining to fight back tears. Or maybe it was the urine leaking out because of some internal overflow. Anyway, he refused again. He told her to wait. 5 minutes later, we hear a gasp. Everybody looked up to where the girl was sitting, and we all saw a puddle on the floor under her desk. It slowly increased in size, and as it encroached slowly under other students' desks, the teacher instructed us all to get up and go outside. It was awful. That poor girl just sat at her desk with her head down as we all walked out of the room, half laughing and half gagging. First day of classes freshman year of college. I pick a seat in the middle of the lecture hall. Guy comes in, sits in front of me, whips out his laptop and headphones, and watches Norp the entire class, in the middle of the lecture hall. At least 40 people behind him. 0 fricks given. I was in junior high in the 90s. A kid named Jason, who wasn't very popular, had a long rat tail that he was proud to have grown. One butthole kid, Tom, took scissors and cut it off when he sat behind him. Poor Jason looked stunned as he reached back and felt the back of his head. He tried to play it off and stammered, I don't care. I was gonna cut it off soon anyway. He had tears in his eyes and his face was bright red. When the teacher asked about the commotion, Jason said it was nothing. I spoke up and told her what happened. Tom was my friend, but what a frickin' D. My 12th grade English teacher used to have us read the short stories and poems aloud to hold interest better. We were reading The Importance of Being Earnest, I think, and this guy with the unfortunate name of Andy Peacock is reading. He gets to the word assuage, and he paused. I could see the gears turning in his head as he tried to figure that one out, and I guess he felt pressured to hurry up, and he blurts out, butt sausage. Even the teacher was trying not to laugh while trying to get the rest of us to not laugh at him. It was funny because, well, butt sausage, and sad because of of how many kids in 12th grade had trouble reading. Teacher here. I was planning on showing a video clip to my class of high school seniors, but my computer for some reason wasn't displaying the video. So, as my students were trickling in, I noticed one of them had his computer on him. I asked if I could use it really quickly, and he said yes. At this point, my entire class of 20 or so kids were in. I hooked his laptop up to the projector and go to download the video from my email. It finished downloading and starts up a video player automatically from his computer. I'm still not quite sure what happened, but I think he had a video player already up. Instead of playing the video clip I just downloaded, the entire screen, a monstrosity that took up the entire classroom wall, showed a very perky young lady filleting two Asian men. Sloppy BJ noises and grunts echoed deafeningly in the silent classroom. I felt like everything was in slow-mo, but one student later told me I jumped to close the laptop with such quick desperation that it was like watching someone leap on top of a grenade. The owner of the laptop turned bright red, but both he and the whole class started laughing. I think in the end, I was the person who was most embarrassed. The kid even had the balls to say, "Miss, I know that's not the first time you've seen that before." And then he winked, speechless. Gym class, so not really a classroom, but I was good friends with the class clown in middle school, who would do anything and everything for a bit of attention. Well, one day my friend decided to take one of his dad's Viagra before school to see what would happen. Well, surprise, surprise, he went through his whole day with a raging Woody, completely unashamed and proud of his accomplishment, that is, until gym class. As soon as we got to the gym class, he realized that he had more than he bargained for, considering everything is visible in gym shorts. He tucked his little buddy up into his waistband and hoped for the best. Well, we had to do a high jump exercise that day that caused his shirt to lift up, displaying the tip of the little dude to everyone in class. Girls cried, guys laughed. The teacher's jaw dropped. He was sent to the office and received a very stern lecture on what the principal bluntly called not being a dumb butt. In middle school, I remember waiting for the car rider bell to ring, and my hometown teacher was talking to two of my classmates, a boy and a girl. Now note, the boy had a little sister who died of cancer a few years ago. So anyways, the girl was telling my teacher how much time she would always spend at the boy's house, saying that she was almost like family. Then my teacher says, "So you're like the daughter they never had, huh?" Ooh, I still cringe thinking about how silent it got after she said that. My 4th grade teacher was the worst teacher I've ever had. She wasn't just a bad teacher, she was a bad human being. There was one boy who was kind of the weird kid, but he was funny and I liked him. One day we were reading about bugs, and she called him to read aloud the section about antennae. I knew the word antennae, knew how it was pronounced, so when he started reading it, it was obvious he'd never seen or heard the word before. He pronounced it antennae, and instead of correcting him, our teacher just let him read a full page with this word repeating. I started to watch her as he read, and she was smirking and trying to hold back laughter. When he finished reading, she said, "It's pronounced antennae, by the way," and the whole class, her included, just started laughing uproariously. He was a good sport and kind of laughed along with them, but I could tell he was really embarrassed. It's almost 20 years later, and that memory is still so vivid to me. Another one was in freshman biology. A guy's voice cracked as he was answering a question, and he said, "Sorry, that keeps happening to me. I don't know why." And the teacher kinda chuckled and said, "You should probably ask your dad." Edit. Antennae, guys. It's antennae. A classmate of mine, call him Guy, had a hearing aid, but also this device for teachers to hang around their neck which sent audio straight to him, so he didn't have to filter out the background noise. Early day cheap hearing aids weren't the best. Anyway, one math lesson, the teacher sets up group work and goes out of the room for some reason, tells us to get on with it. About a minute later, Guy starts to laugh so hard tears come down his face. Naturally, we were all very intrigued, and he just took out his hearing aid and passes it to someone. The teacher was dropping the loudest crap I have ever heard. Grunting, groaning, loud splashes, and wet farts. It was sickening and majestic. She came back in and we all lost it. TLDR. Heard stern math teacher dropping horrifying crap / summoning Cthulhu. I remember a substitute teacher that we had for a few days when I was in middle school. She was pretty overweight, and one day she grabbed a chair from an empty desk to help someone with their assignment, when we suddenly heard a loud crash. One of the legs on the chair had broken, and she was flat on her back. It was hard not to laugh, but what made it even worse is as she was getting up, she ended up farting very loudly. The entire class erupted in a fit of laughter, and she had to leave the classroom because she was so embarrassed. In 10th grade social studies, we were talking about Imperial Russia, and of course, Rasputin. I interrupted whatever my teacher was saying with, "Hey, I heard that Rasputin had a 12-inch CNIP." I could tell I said something completely inappropriate and totally weird when she just stared back at me. My classmates had gone completely silent too. How was I to cover this up and play it cool? I started to panic. Yeah, I hear that they keep it in a jar somewhere in a museum. Oh God, why? I knew a girl who was convinced zebras were like unicorns and didn't exist. She was a freshman in high school. An entire class was spent looking up pictures and videos of zebras online to prove it to her. The teacher in the class tried everything, but she just kept saying, "Well, there are pictures and videos of dragons online too," and using arguments like that. Everyone lost all respect for her in that hour. She was too thick-headed to be embarrassed, but everyone there was embarrassed enough for her to make it cringeworthy as hell. In 8th grade health class, my teacher was demonstrating how to properly strap someone into a stretcher. She was a smoke show. The dude being strapped in popped a rock-hard bone dog as she was leaning over him. This was a class of around 50 immature middle school students, all staring at him. He just laid there strapped in, unable to move, with an awkward boner. He apologized over and over as our sexy teacher tried not to laugh as she unstrapped him. I still get secondhand embarrassment thinking about it. This kid Corey was being a prick in class, shouting out, trying to be funny, so this big dude Jefferson, who sat behind Corey, flicked him in the ear. Corey started to cry, but it started off as that wheezy silent cry. Everyone turned to look at him, and the crying escalated until he was sobbing uncontrollably. There was snot coming from his nose, and he was drooling, and he was holding his ear like he had just been shot. He started punching the desk and screaming, "Why? Why? Why?" The teacher was just asking him what was wrong, and Corey said, "Jefferson is being a crap." So she told him to watch his language or go to the office. He started crying even harder and fell to the ground, curled up in a ball. She had to lift him up by the arm and take him to the office. When he came back near the end of class, Jefferson flicked him again, and he just shrieked, and the situation basically repeated itself, except the teacher had much less tolerance and sent him to the office immediately. Some weird kid in class was being annoying, and the girl in front of him turned around and said, "Shut up, Josh. No one likes you." Everyone laughed. I caught the teacher smirking, while Josh just put his head down on the desk. I felt bad for him, because it was true. No one liked Josh. I was sitting in 6th grade biology, and my stomach started to hurt pretty badly. Thinking I just needed to go to the restroom, I stood up and walked from my rear row seat to the teacher's desk to request the bathroom pass. When I got the bathroom pass, it turned out I had started my period for the very first time, and it had soaked through my yellow sweatpants. It was apparently all over the seat, and everyone had seen it. When I was in 4th grade, there was a very odd/awkward girl in my class. She liked to eat weird things like paper, eraser shavings, dirt, snot, you name it. But her favorite thing was eating the skin on her fingers. And I mean all over her fingers, not just the skin around her nails. Well, one day she was gnawing away at them during a lesson, like she did every day. When the teacher stopped and asked, "Does that taste good?" the girl answered yes. The teacher replied with, "Go wash your hands. We don't eat our fingers. That's disgusting." Most awkward moment I think I've ever experienced in school. I felt kinda bad for her, but she was weird as frick. In high school, it was sort of a running joke/common practice to point out the hottest guy in school. One lunch period, I needed to swap some lady business out in the restroom, so I slip a fresh tampon up my sleeve to discreetly handle it. I promptly forgot I had said tampon up my sleeve, saw the hottest guy in school, pointed him out as usual. I freaking missile targeted him by accident. Watching a tampon fly from my sleeve and fall at his feet took me by one hell of a surprise.